Hello, and welcome to the Thursday, March 5th episode, recorded on Monday, March 2nd. This is Venture Prince here on YouTube. If you stumbled into this and have not seen the previous episodes, it is a YouTube series that I'm doing throughout the year of 2026, where I'm challenging myself to do 2 episodes a week, where I talk about some photos I've taken in the past that will also correspond with an Instagram on my eVentureCast Instagram account. So these episodes will be on YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. And there'll be a photo the photo that we talk about in the episode will also be posted to my Instagram that exact same day. Although I did mess one up this last week because I was on vacation and I did not post it until Monday, which was today, which was a mistake. But I'm trying my best. So this is Venture Prince. I am a lifelong fan of photography, and I thought this would be fun to try in 2026, where if I posted these little videos giving some details of some of my favorite photos I've taken over the years, people might find that interesting, and it might get my photography out there a little more along with my Instagram. So there you have it. I already explained why I'm wearing Red Wings and Tigers stuff on Tuesday's episode. Although, again, people could be watching these whenever. I recently went down to Florida, to a wedding that was in um, Bluffton, South Carolina, and a Florida for some Detroit Tigers spring training baseball. And the Red Wings won on the day of this recording, Monday, March 2nd, against Nashville. Hence the Tigers and Red Wings attire. So we're getting into this photo I took. I took this on Monday, March 14th. This is one of the later photos. I have since gotten to a point where I rarely stay up this late, but it sometimes happens. This is one of those times. Monday, March 14th at 11:44 p.m. of 2022. And I took it in what's listed on my phone as Waves, North Carolina. It was right next to the KOA my friends and I were staying at in what's called the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So it was of this dock that was across from our campground. It was dark, and I thought it was super cool. Let me get into the more detailed screenshot of where it was. And as you can see here, Virginia, to give it some context, Virginia Beach way up there. This is, I mentioned we did a photo from the Outer Banks in a previous episode, and I mentioned that the Outer Banks are also where Kitty Hawk is located, home of the very first flight by the Wright brothers and their airplane. So here we go. And this was an interesting location, as I talked about in the previous episode, because if you look, this is the Atlantic Ocean to the right, and it's still the Atlantic Ocean to the left. It's not like a bay or a lake. So you could kind of from our campground, you could get the sunrise over here and the sunset over here, both over the water and both technically the ocean, which was pretty cool. There's Kitty Hawk up there, as I said. And as we move down, see, it says it's listed as Waves, North Carolina, or the Outer Banks. It was super fun area because it was so interesting because of how thin it was. It's like driving through the Key West, which we'd also done on the trip. But, like, it was wild because at times you'd be on the road and you could see the water obviously from both sides, and really those are both the ocean. They're not a it's not a lake and the ocean or anything like that, or a bay. They are the ocean. I think there's a name for it, I'm sure, but and there you can see the Hatteras KOA, which was a really great KOA. I'd highly recommend that to anybody, if you're in the area. It was a super nice KOA, very beautiful, and, KOAs are very reasonable. I can't say enough about KOAs. We stayed at a ton during the trip. You can see we took a few photos there right where our place was. Here are photos on this beach, but the photo we're talking about was on the west side of the Outer Banks here, right off what highway is it? Highway 12, North Carolina Highway 12. And yeah, there you go. There's a little more of where the KOA was, and there's a little more of where the photo was, which, as I said, was taken at 11:44 p.m. on Monday, March 14th, 2022. There's some there's some very obvious things I liked about this, but I don't it really the iPhone, I will say, I wish I had a nicer camera, but I kind of on a shoestring budget, as they say. So the iPhone camera does a pretty good job with night shots where you can get stars and stuff like that. And to me, I love things, when they're lined up dead in center. You got the dock going dead center, got all little lights. They're all illuminated, leading up to this little thing at the end of the dock, a covered canopy, I guess, maybe for fishing or whatnot, and stars there. And you can still see a little bit of the sun, or not the sun, just the iPhone bringing out that light. So it's really obviously by now the sun would have been long set at 11:44 p.m. But the iPhone really brings out what light there is, and that certainly could be some light pollution from across the water. And this night, I remember a very good buddy of mine, unfortunately, their mom passed away. I was doing a podcast from the Outer Banks campground over here, and their mom had passed away right during the podcast. And I just, it was crazy because I'd known them for a long time, and I don't know, I felt some sort of way about it, I suppose you might say. And my buddy Scott that was on a trip with me that went out, and I said, dude, I just want to go get a beer. And luckily there was this bar pretty close by. We could walk, got a beer, and then we got to drink a few more beers with my buddy Tyler and Scott. And we had an evening. We had an evening that night where we certainly were going around and having some fun and on this wild adventure. Maybe I could even, while I'm talking, I could maybe do this uh just to give some context to it. Like, here we go. I'm gonna as I'm doing this, this is abnormal for me, but I'm gonna show a few pictures my buddy Tyler took that night, and I did not plan on doing this. So anyway, let me get back to the photo real quick, so it's not just me. And so yeah, it was an interesting evening, and that, I mean, hence staying up late for sure. But we got some cool photos out of it, and that was kind of um yeah, that's where this one came from. So one second, this is highly unprofessional, I would say. And by the way, so this is a series called E Venture Prince. I also have a podcast I do, and I just had a new free episode of E Venture Cast come out on Tuesday. Uh, so if you're watching this at any point in history, that photo will be, or that podcast will be up and out there. So uh, I also have all these photos are always on my Instagram the day I do this show, as well as I have a Patreon called E Venturecast Patreon, and um, that one I spent, as I talk about here, I spent 2022 driving around in a van doing open mic comedy in all 50 states with my buddies. And if you wanna hear more about what that was like, you can go to my eVentureCast, Patreon page. I have hundreds of videos and audio talking about what that was like. I also, if you're interested in what it's like, the last 3 summers have worked on a tourist island called Mackinac Island in northern Michigan, that is famous. There we go. There's a photo of me drinking a Bud Light, wearing my Tigers World Series jacket. That was taken not long after I'd taken this photo, and then another one my buddy Tyler took of me. Let's see here. Do I got it? My buddy Tyler took of me. So I've spent the last few summers working and living on a island in northern Michigan that's famous for not having automobiles and having good fudge. And I have hundreds of videos of me working with horses, what it's like to live and work on an island with no cars, and worldwide tourist destination. There I am. I always talk about how I like pictures of the road. I like empty roads. I like being on empty roads for whatever reason. And so if late at night, if I'm ever up late at night or early in the morning, a thing I will often do is stand in the middle of empty roads. I'm sure there's some sort of fucking troubadour bullshit. I could lay out some artsy reason about how I just like the empty road and wondering where it goes, which is kind of true. But I am super obsessed with those. So there I am. There. Oh, let me do that. Look like this is the best version of it. So there I am. This was, like I said, this is almost 12 o'clock at night. So this is a little after even the main photo that we're talking about was taken. So there you go. That was I a little disjointed at the end there, even though I'm glad brought those into it. I think it adds a little extra to the topic. There's the photo that we're talking about this week on E Venture Prince, and I will be back again uh, for more episodes of E Venture Prince on YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday right here on this channel. Thanks so much, everybody, for checking us out and watching it. Hey, if you have a chance, please like the video. If you're watching it, give it a like, share it around, or subscribe. Super appreciate it. That's it for now. See you.